Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our second webinar for the Introduction to E-Commerce course by the University of the Philippines Open University. So in this video, we'll be discussing business model, developing one for your business ideas. Primarily, this video is made to supplement your submissions for your assignment number one, which is developing your business ideas. So most of my evaluations there could be improved or could be addressed by some of the concepts in this discussion. So this would be in continuation of the webinar number one. So in case you haven't viewed that, it's still on our course site. You can view the recording there. So basically, on the last video, we discussed first what is a business in the context of an e-commerce business model. And then we discussed how can we create a business model using templates, tools that is available for us. So we discussed how the business model canvas works in developing your business model, and also how can you develop a good value proposition using the same business model canvas, but zoomed in on the value proposition and the target market, which is the customer profile. So tonight, we'll be discussing more deeply on business model, particularly how can you develop better business models for your business ideas. Okay, so let us go back quickly on what is a business model. So business model is how factors in a business play with each other to generate value. This is different from a business plan. A business plan are sets of steps you need to do to achieve a destination or a vision or a target. Business model is just how do factors in the business or how do marketing operations and finance play with each other to generate value so that you can get revenues and ultimately get profit. So this business model and the business plan is different. Business plan, you create a business plan when you have a set business model. Okay, so how do we define business model in a more tangible definition? So the typical business model has 9 building blocks. So what are these? So first, we start with customer segment. Who are your target market? And then when you know their needs, their wants, you now go to the value proposition. So that's the benefit of your products and services to address the needs and wants of your customer segments or target market. Now, in order to deliver the value or the benefit, you need to know how you relate or what the relationship between the business and the customer, and also what are the touch points. So how would you sell your products and services to deliver the value proposition? So that's the channels. So all in all, the value proposition, customer segment, relationships, and channels are what we call the marketing sphere that answers the desirability of your business idea. Is it desired by your target market? So that's the question it tries to answer. On the left side, we have the key partners, activities, and resources. So those are on the operational side. So how can you create the value proposition? So you need to be good at an activity. You need to have a key resource, and you need to know, or you need to have key partners in order to build that or create that value. On the lower part of this template, of this tool, is the cost structure and revenue stream. So basically, revenue streams, how would you get revenue? It's just that it could be just a typical transaction lang, or cost structure, uh, how would you incur cost in relation to your revenue streams. Um, Putting that together, revenue minus cost would be your profit. The end. So basically, this summarizes how do the 9 building blocks of a business play with each other so that you can create benefit to your target market. Now, in all starting business, it all boils down to is the product and service desired by your target market. So basically, it answers the question. It answers the uncertainty or the market risk wherein you're selling something that no one wants. So you zoom in the value proposition and customer segment because that's the requirement of having a good business model. So we zoom in on the value proposition and customer segment. So this is called the value proposition canvas. This is a plug-in tool on the value proposition, on the business model canvas. So on the customer segment, this is our target market. We break down into customer jobs, pains, and gains. So basically, customer jobs are the things or the tasks that your customer or target market want to accomplish in their work, in their home, on different roles they play. So basically, anything related to your customers that could be related to your products and service you're planning to establish or planning to do in your existing business, you identify that. And what are the obstacles? What are the annoyances? That would be the pains. It could also be defined as the needs of your target market. The gains are what would your customers want in order for them to be delighted. So in a layman definition, pains kung ano yung kinakainisan ni customer sa paggawa ng function niya or sa jobs na identify nyo, ilalagay dito. On the gains, ano yung gusto niya makita para sumaya siya. Ganun lang siya kasimple. And then on the other side, products and services, most of us, most of the submissions that I evaluated starts with a product and services that is not defined yet. So they're still building their product and services line. For those who are existing, who has an existing business, these are basically set, so established na. Now, in order to innovate, you need to map out how can you address the pains and gains, the needs or the wants, or kung ano yung kinakainisan at gustong makita ng ating customer. So we can innovate our existing products and services by putting gain creators or features that would address the gains in pain relievers or our features of our products and services that would address the pains, the annoyances, and the other needs that your customer want. Now, you can change this a little bit, the products and services, especially in different types of different types of business idea. For a business idea that is totally starting from scratch, you can be innovative on the value proposition. For an existing business, you have basically an established set of products and services. You may want to experiment on the gain creators and pain relievers to get more customers. But for new businesses or starting businesses, selling or reselling things, so basically products and services are pretty much set. You can't really innovate on that because you are just reselling. Maybe you don't have the luxury of changing the name or all. So gain creators and pain relievers become ways to do messaging. So when you are reselling stuff, maybe you're buying from a distributor and you want to start a reselling business, products and services, nandiyan na yan eh. You can't really innovate on that. Can only change the branding of that. By doing so, you need to be innovative on the customer segment. Sino ba yung tatargeting ko? Ano yung pains and gains nila? Gain creators and pain relievers now become a way to message your target market or customer segment. But that's only for reseller type businesses that doesn't have the luxury of innovating their products and services, especially the features, the size, packaging, and all. So that's one way to look at it. So how do we get these? How can we develop a good value proposition canvas? This comes with market research. So the more data we get from our customers would give us a better product market fit. So a product market fit happens when our value proposition matches the customer segment's needs and wants. So that's a product market fit. We can only do that if we have data from our customers. And we can do that through interviews, through experiments that will be discussed in this video. Okay, so basically that's what we discussed last business 101 discussion. Now, we go through in a deeper model in terms of how can you start a business or how can you improve an existing business. So everything starts with the entrepreneur, the one in your the one you see in the lower left of your screen. That's the entrepreneur. It all starts with the entrepreneur or the team behind the entrepreneur. You start with thinking of an idea, and that involves designing your business idea into a good business model. So in the middle of this framework, we see a small version of the business model canvas. So when we try to develop a business model, we think of a business idea, which is the first stage of iterating a good business model towards your vision. Kung ano gusto nyo mangyari sa business nyo. Gusto nyo maging malaking corporation, it's a good vision, but it all starts with a business idea. And that is through the ideation stage. We think of ideas, and the way to visualize that business idea is through developing your business model canvas, your value proposition canvas, filling up those boxes. That's basically your ideation stage. So filling up those would give you a visualize or a visual on how factors of a business play with each other, interact with each other to generate value for basically for your customer. So that's the ideation stage. We discussed in the previous two slides, the business model canvas and the value proposition canvas. So that's the ideation stage. Now, the next logical thing in designing a business idea through a business model is to create prototypes. Prototypes could be scribbles on your notebook, pieces of paper, and testing that on your initial set of customers. And then assessing what are the things you need to improve on. So basically, designing is just putting everything on paper. But in designing, the entrepreneur's biases, prejudices, past experiences comes into picture. And in a business, we know that we should be detectives, not as fortune tellers. So we need to know, would this business model design work? So we now go to the testing of the business model that we've created in the design stage. Now, the basic step is to hypothesize uh, the assumptions or to test the assumptions that we've written on our business model, wherein we test assumptions na kapag hindi nangyari yung assumption na yun, our whole business idea would not work. So that's putting the hypothesis and then experimenting if that's validated or falsified, and then we learn as we continue. Now, the path to an entrepreneur to a vision is not a straight line. Everything is in this array. Basically, it tells us we are in a world full of uncertainty. We don't know what would happen in the future, in the market, or how the customers would react. So, we this design and testing framework goes hand in hand and involves a continuous process, an iterative process, not just a one-time thing. Nagagawa tayo ng business model, we test them out. Pag nakita natin, we implement it, create a business plan for it. That's not the way to do business. Every once in a while, the market, our customers would throw something at us that would uh, create some sort of uncertainty and detours in our plans. So it's important to continuously improve through the designing and testing framework like this one. Now, medyo magulo pa. We will discuss this in detail. How do we design our business? So we have an idea. Again, we create a business model in the value proposition, which is the activity for the next activity for the course, and that would mean by doing a business model and value proposition design for our business idea would lead to us getting profits. So that's the target that we set for our business or maybe just for this course. But there is a thing called risk. Risk is the result of any event happening. It could be positive, negative, but we're more concerned with the negative risk. So we know we planned for our business model. We planned for our business idea. But are we really sure that it would mean success for us? 100%, it's not always the case. Now, because it happens because we assume something. So we assume that this would work. This is the best thing for the customers. But in reality, we really don't know. The exception could be we are so into the business. We know the industry. We've been working for so many years and we know the intricacies. That's maybe one of the exceptions. But for the typical Filipino who want to start a business, they create full they create business models, business plans full of assumptions. And without validating or falsifying that assumptions through experiment and subsequently without learning about our customers, about the market, we can't reduce the uncertainty or the risk. What are one of the painful risk in a business? It's selling something that no one wants. You don't want to sell something. You build a business, invest on something, and then when you start your business, you open for the first time, you will just learn that hindi pala gusto ng target market mo or ng customers. So that's the most painful thing for an entrepreneur. At the start, you want to reduce that uncertainty and risk. In the submissions that I assessed for this course, so lots of assumptions there. We assume that this would work, this will work. But in reality, that's thinking. So that business idea thinks that the customer is ourselves, and most of the time ourselves is not the same as the target market, or what we think is not what our customers think. So that's one way to reduce uncertainty, is to experiment on the assumptions we listed on the business model or value proposition canvas. So um, we look back in the business model canvas. So on our next activity for the course, we would list down statements on each of the 9 building blocks. And in doing so, we should be mindful that those are just assumptions. And that assumption, we need to check whether it's true or not in the eyes of our customers. So we have 3 challenges that we need to check for our business models. So the first big thing that we need to check all the time is the desirability. Do our products and services desired by our customer segments? That's the number one thing. Second, can we do this? Can we develop or can we build the product or the service we intend to establish? And lastly, do the math work? Do the revenue is higher than the cost for us to continue doing the business? Okay, just to answer the question, we have a question here. Can you give us an example of a business idea, then compare it to the 9 building blocks? Okay, so in this context, feasibility, desirability, and viability, let's say the value, the business is a uh, uh, barbecue stand, okay, barbecue stand. So the value proposition, simply value proposition, hot, freshly grilled barbecue uh, delivered online. Yeah. So that's a value proposition. Channels could be social media page, and then a Facebook group, example. Then customer segments are within the barangay. So barangay A, for example. That's a customer segment. Customer relationship is uh, sort of a transactional thing, but there is a database that the business maintain for ordering. So we store information for repeat purchases, so that when they talk to us, state their name, we know when to deliver, where to deliver, and how do they pay. So basically, that's customer relationship. Maybe a loyalty program, but that's over the basic business model. So basically, that's a customer relationship. Key activities. The key activity should be the grilling process. Should have a specialized grilling process wherein they have uh, uh, parang may tostado, specialty, and then we have this not so much burnt grilling, but it's the grilling that they need to be good at for them to serve hot, freshly grilled barbecue delivered online. Key resource for them to deliver that great barbecue is to source the best ingredient. Now, for them to have that key resource, that good meat for grilling, is that they have this criteria for selecting meat from different suppliers. So maybe just the palengke lang, meron silang set of how much fat, how much meat, what type of part of pork or chicken. So meron silang criteria. So that merong standard, always same. Same value proposition delivered. And also, in order to have that key resource, they need to have select partners. In layman language, ito yung mga suki na gusto nilang maging partner nila to get the best resource so that they can complement their grilling process. Yan. Okay. So, revenue stream. Simply sales, price times quantity. That's their revenue stream. So, transactional. Plus, delivery fee within the barangay. And then, we have a cost structure of the variable cost ang usual na ilalagay mo kapag ganun transactional. What are the variable costs? The meat, the ingredients, and on. So that's basically how you create a quick value proposition. So from that example, is the barbecue real desired by the customer segment or yung tao sa barangay? Let's say we are 10 grillers within the barangay. How can I be desirable in the eyes of the same customer segment? So, yung mga tao sa barangay. So, that's the desirability part. On the feasibility, can I have a good grilling process in relation to the competition? Or meron ba akong expertise as an entrepreneur or the team behind me? Can I create that same process or the best grilling process, key resource and key partners? So that's one way to look at the business model canvas. It's a simple story telling on how the business works, but it all the statements I've made are all assumptions, and that assumption needs to be tested. Why? Because if we're building a business based on assumption, it's a very risky thing. Baka yung grilling process na sinasabi natin is not better than the ones put up by the 9 other barbecue stations out there. Or is the channel really the way to communicate with the barangay? Kasi pwedeng hindi naman online. Pwedeng magtayo ka ng physical kiosk somewhere na barangay or naglalako ka. It is the statements you've made in the business model true enough to grant you higher success in terms of when you invest your full budget on that barbecue business. So that is an example on how you look at a simple business and creating a business model for it. Now, again, we look at the feasibility, desirability, and viability. First thing to check for any business or any business idea or new offerings of an existing business is the desirability part. Gusto ba siya ng ating customer? So, we need to test for the market risk, especially for new businesses. Kapag existing businesses now operating for months, we know our product or service is desired, but we're not really sure how much of the market or the magnitude of that desirability. So yun yung challenge for existing businesses. Now, how do we test for desirability? So we think when we create business models, we always start with the statement we believe because it's basically an assumption. So in checking for our assumptions in the desirability part of our business models, we need to check the customer segments, value proposition, channel, and the customer relationship. So first, in the customer segment, are we targeting the right customer segment? So in the barbecue business example, baka mas maganda doon sa kabilang barangay. Pwede. How are we sure that the market in the initial barangay we're targeting is really correct? Kasi maybe we're not sure. Maybe we are 10 competitors in the initial barangay I'm targeting. But for the other barangay, walang barbecuehan kumaga. So, are we correct in targeting the initial market as compared to the other market wherein there is really no competition? So we need to check that. So are the segments we're targeting do exist? This is especially for innovative business models, mga startup businesses that creates innovative and super creative ideas, mga first movers na business idea. So usually they're doing a product, a software product that is not software product or a new product, an app for a non-existent target market. Customer segments, ito yung common that I saw in the evaluation that I made for the submission in this batch in the assignment number 1. For the customer segments, the segments you are targeting, in my opinion, are not big enough. Why? Because in my experience, failing in different businesses, there are times when we think this would work. Yes, it would work, but the market is not big enough to justify a business in that space. Maraming examples ako dito, pero hahaba na. Meron one time, we developed a crowdfunding platform for missing people. Parang ganyan. So, it's basically putting campaigns on a website. And the website ask for ideas, recommendation, or basically ask the crowd kung nasan yung tao. So, parang ano siya, KMJS na online. So, parang ganun. And then people would donate for the campaign, for the story. The business on a viability standpoint, kapag tinignan natin yung per account basis or per campaign basis, the number of donations for each campaign to the cost per each campaign, viable naman. Pero if you look at the overall picture of the business, the investment you need to do to develop the platform to the size of the market, hindi nagmamatch. So you would be investing on something for a small market. So what I've learned there, it is the business model is not for profit. It's for advocacies, particularly for maybe more for foundations in non-government institutions for socially relevant advocacy ideas. So parang ganun siya. So that's one example of segments that are not big enough to justify investing on a business for that market. Yeah. What you need to check for desirability on the value proposition, are you using the right value proposition for the exact needs of your target market? Or are your value proposition unique enough uh, not to be replicated by others. Kasi yun ang issue kapag business eh. You create something, it would work, others would copy. So do you have that protection? And then channels, do you have the right channels to reach? Or do we know much of the channels to deliver the value or the benefit for our target market? Customer relationships, can we, the most common assumption here is our business change the perception of our customers in terms of shifting to us? Can we create the right relationship so that iiwan nila yung existing solution nila for a specific need that you're trying to address? So, in our example a while ago, sa barbecue stand or business, you're opening up a new barbecue business and then you have competitors. Can you build the right relationship so that you can pull them from their existing favorite barbecue stand or barbecue grillers? Do you have that capability? So that's one way. And can you retain customers? On the specific test for desirability in the customer profile and value map of the value proposition canvas. So we need to define, uh, are we addressing jobs that really matter to customers? When you check on your submission, is the problem you are addressing is really painful for them to get their wallet and give you the money for the solution you're offering? Is it too painful for them? Or, kasi the usual is, we think of a problem that is something really, really painful. But in reality, it's not enough for the existing customers to uh, to change their behavior of buying from you instead of their existing supplier or existing practice. Let's say this is a barbecue stand nga. Kung fresh hot grilled lang yung ino-offer nyo, it's something that is offered by the competitors. So is that really the focus of your business model? Or since your value proposition is online related, online delivery, online order taking, would you focus more on the online thing rather than the grilling part? So that's your dilemma. And that would only happen if you talk to your customers and ask them, what is your preference? Yung merong online ba? Or kakaiba lang yung grilling process? Or fresh yung ingredients na ginamit? So you need to prioritize things. And that can only be done if you identify the priority, the preferences of your customers. And that's through this customer profile map in the value proposition canvas. So with that said, our focus on the pains and gains. So you need to sort of check ano ba yung usual na ginagawa nila kapag bumibili sa mga barbecue stands. Maybe pang-ulam, pang-merienda. So it's a different thing. Kasi if for snacks, iba yung magiging pains and gains niya. Unlike kapag for dinner, lunch, different din yung kanyang pains and gains. So are you targeting people who are just snacking? Siyempre, mas maliit siguro yung mga sizes. Or for dinner, iba din yung size ng barbecue. Yan. So you need to be specific about it so that everything is in synergy for the jobs or the needs and wants of your customer. And that said, on the value map, do your business or the products and service you're selling address or answers the problems, the pains and gains of the customer jobs of your customer profile. So basically, it answers yung product nyo ba na may fit doon sa desire ng inyong target market. So that's basically how you check for desirability so that the market risk is minimized. Yeah. Second to check is about feasibility. Can you perform activities? Merong parenthesis at scale if you would grow your business significantly. So can you perform all activities at the right quality level that is required to build the business model? Because quality in a business, lahat nako-confuse sa quality. Quality is defined based on the requirements set by your customers. Kung sinabi ni customers ang barbecue may 4 na tipak at may timpla ng toyo instead of ketchup, their criteria for quality is based on that. Wherein kapag ang binigay nyo sa kanya, 3 tipak lang, tapos ketchup yung nandun, it is below their expectation. So in their perspective, your product is below quality. That is the true definition of quality. So in order to have good quality, you need to know the customer requirements. So since desirability is the first thing to check for any business model, you should know by the time you're checking for feasibility, what are the quality requirements. So with that, you need to match your activity level in terms of the quality, and can you have that process to satisfy that quality level that your customers require from you. Yan, yun sa key activities. And then on the key resource, it's not just the ingredients, it involves the technology you need, the resources, equipment, and manpower, and everything related to resources on what you'll be using to do your key activity. And key partners, can you have that connection with partners you think could be beneficial for your business? Third, this is checking for the viability or minimizing the financial risk. Now, this is if your customers desire your product, this should be easy for you, especially on the revenue streams. Can you get customers to pay a specific price for your value proposition? Me personally, when I do business and offer recommendations for students and other businesses, unless you are not the cheapest, or you operate not on the lowest cost possible, you can never do a cost leader strategy or the cheapest price strategy. Why? Because if you are not the cheapest, merong business dyan that can offer a lower price than you. If that is their strategy, you would lose the battle when you enter the price war between them. So another approach is to price based on the value your business brings. That way, you have the luxury of increasing the price with respect to the value that you offer. So you need to test out different price points that is justifiable to the value your products and services offer. So that's one way to test for viability. You check for the price points, their willingness to pay. And then the cost structure, how can you manage the cost on an efficiency level? But that's for existing businesses na eh. Especially for new businesses, it's more on desirability rather than the specific efficiency and efficiency part of the cost structure. That is mostly for mature businesses rather than startup businesses. And then on the profit, yeah, basically, can we generate profit or having more revenues than the cost? So basically, that's the third part of checking for assumptions in your business. Okay, so now we've listed down some of the statements within the 9 building blocks of your business model canvas. So you need to select a building block there. Wherein kapag hindi nangyari, your business would not work or the business would totally not function. So you need to select just the critical ones. You don't need to test for everything because there are just not important assumptions there. And maybe you have some evidence. For those assumptions that are important and you don't have evidence, you just have a hunch maybe, tingin nyo lang, you need to test those out. Why? Because that would greatly affect how your business would work in the future. We have this like 80-20 rule. 80% of the result come from the 20% of the things we do. So if we are right in this critical one, we can make the business idea work. So you don't need to test everything out. I know everyone has a limited budget. We need to just select a few so that we can go and validate our business model. So other things, we can test those out, but not at the start, especially for new businesses. And for existing businesses, maybe you want to start an uh, online operations or new product or new service offering, you need to test what would make it work for your existing business. More on the feasibility and the testing the value proposition. Okay, so testing rules. The principle that I always use is to think big, start small, and act fast. Why think big? We always should have a good vision for our business. Maybe in a 5-year time, the barbecue stand in our example can be a competitor to uh, to the leader, maybe Andox. Yeah, that's one example of a think big statement. In 5 years, we would be as large as the leader. Let's say Andox. Yeah. And then we start small. We can never become big as the market leader without starting small. By starting small, we can be smart with our budget, number one, and also we can learn quickly at the least possible expense or cost. Yeah. And acting fast because the market moves so fast now with all the technological developments, change of preferences of our target market. Doing experiments in a 1-2 weeks max is a good way to check our assumptions. So what are the rules? Go cheap and fast at the beginning. So sa umpisa kasi, mataas ang uncertainty. And we go with the cheap experiments or experiments that only incur a small amount of budget. Yeah. For for existing businesses, we can spend on experiments more because uncertainty and risk is minimized since you have operated na. Diba? Choose experiment that produces the strongest evidence given your constraint. So depending on the budget, depending on the constraint time usually, and then the budget constraint and the capability, what techniques you need to use. So check for more, in my experience, choose experiments that deals with more people and then getting feedback from them. Yeah. Third, reduce uncertainty as much as you can before you invest in something. That's one way to look at it. Let's say, si barbecue example, gusto mo maging undocs nga in 5 years. You start with the barangay first. Kunyari hindi pa siya nagbubuo. Ginawa pa lang niya yung business model. How can that entrepreneur validate the business model? Maybe uh, start with grilling on your house, of creating a Facebook group for the barangay, or kung nag-i-exist na yung barangay Facebook group. Uso na siya kasi ngayon eh. Offer that and check whether it would be a hit or not. Kung hindi, bakit? You test those out in a week. You check your assumptions. You improve your business model, improve your key activities, your process, and then go at it then the following week until you improve, warranting you the justification to spend your savings or investing. Kasi yung the typical approach, kunyari, nag-create ka na ng business model. Gagawin niya is bili na siya ng kiosk or mag-rent na ng space. And then, execute na agad niya yung kanyang plano. But, if that entrepreneur didn't check na hindi pala yun yung gusto, yung initial investment mo may sunk cost na, ang hirap na bawiin because usually rent is like renting for a period and there's a contract, at least a year most of the time. So you need to recoup that monthly rent under contract. Unlike if you're just testing the product, doing quick experiments, you would learn similarly when you invest fully on that barbecue business. So yun yung moral in this third rule. You reduce uncertainty first before you invest on something. It's better to be false without investing rather than investing your full savings or your full budget and just learn that it would just fail. So that's some rules that you want to use in your business, existing business, or your planned business. Now, quickly on the experiments, we touched on this briefly last discussion. So what are the experiments to check if our assumptions is wrong or right? So we have customer interviews, concept test. It could be a prototype, so actual barbecue, for example, or just a flyer without the actual grilled barbecue, just to test if someone order or not. Prototypes, the actual sample could be, or a drawing. Yeah. Pre-sale is getting orders even without you producing the actual product or service. So that's some of the usual experiments that entrepreneurs do to check whether their assumptions are wrong or right. Now, I'll be offering you some of the sequences and some of the higher level experiments that businesses do to check the validity of their assumptions. So there are discovery experiments and validation experiments. So the discovery experiments, these are ways to get ideas, to improve ideas of your initial idea. So basically you check for feedback and make use of that feedback to improve your existing idea. The validating part is where you have a product, you want to validate if the assumptions you made on that product or services is correct. Now, we have a B2C sequence here, B2B sequence. These are for physical products. Physical products. So in a B2C sequence, business to consumer sequence, usually start with customer interview. So that's what you'll be doing for assignment number 3. Then when you do the customer interview as much as possible that fits to your initial target market you listed on your business model canvas or in the value proposition canvas. And then the patterns you identified in the customer interview, you check that in search trend analysis. So search trend analysis, you can do keyword planner in Google Ads, in Facebook or Google Trends, the number of similar products purchased on marketplaces. So you just check whether the things you saw in the customer interview or learned from the customer interview is shown on search trends. Yeah. Then you do paper prototype. So paper prototype, you just draw, could be a graphic design of your business idea or your product and service or flyers. Yeah. And then you do actual prototype, high fidelity prototype. So sample na siya. Kung sa barbecue example, paper prototype are brochure. Brochure. May picture ka nung barbecue, how to order, payment options, how to order, what to expect. Ganun lang. Pero wala ka pang actual business. On the 3D print, you could be so sophisticated by printing something, but basically, this is just a high fidelity prototype, a sample. So may actual barbecue ka na ipapatikim. And then, you do an explainer video to validate all you've learned from the first 4 experiments. And then lastly, this is crowdfunding is something for innovative products, not for the typical products sold in marketplaces. You do crowdfunding. This is where you post your innovative idea on crowdfunding platforms. Ito yung magpo-post. Sa Philippines, there is a Spark Project website where you post your idea and then people would invest on that idea. And then the funds you've gathered can be used for business. And then you'd be sending them samples at the end. So basically, that's crowdfunding. You can check the Indiegogo Kickstarter website to know more about crowdfunding. But these are for innovative first mover type of businesses. Yung mga super innovative. If you have an invention. Before, I had this student, forgot the name. She's a scientist, and the product she made is a test kit. A simple test kit for knowing what type of meat is in their food. The target market for that business are, I think, the one who eats the halal type meat. So they need to know whether kung beef talaga, beef talaga. So there's a test kit for that. So um, I think sort of parang ang crowdfunding platform. Hindi naman technically crowdfunding platform, but there's a competition for that. And then I think she won second prize. Whole Philippines eh. It's a DOST funded competition. So basically the concept is there. Parang ganun yung crowdfunding. You showcase your product, an innovative one, and then people would invest on that. Pop-up store would be the last of the B2C sequence. Pop-up store are a technical term for creating a physical store na temporary. So before, when we did some restaurant na ideas, mga hindi natuloy, we always test on events. Yung mga may mga events before, like conventions, and then mga marketplaces, mga 1 week, mga ganun. So you rent out a space, test your product, and then work from there. That's the last of the B2C sequence when when you want to test out really your physical product. B2B, medyo different, business to business. The target here are businesses. So still, you start with customer interview. Not much for the search trend analysis because these are businesses. You have this data sheet instead of the explainer video. Data sheet is like a technical brochure with the specifications and the expectations of that product. So basically, businesses needs this data to check for other options they have. Mashup MVP. This is like MVP stands for minimum viable product. So it's a small version. It's like prototype. A prototype. And then letter of intent. This is one way to make them interested. So you send them a letter. Then they need to sign if they're interested in an exclusive partnership or something. So that's one way to get the approval of your target businesses. So yan yung mga sequence for products. What how about for services? So for B2C sequence for services or businesses offering service, you also start with customer interview, search trend analysis, but instead of prototype, since this is a business service, you test using online ads, using simple landing pages, collecting emails, and then talking to them using an email campaign. Lastly, when you want to check if your improved service business is viable, you do pre-selling. And then concierge. Concierge is something like doing the services manually yourself without you paying for the whole fleet of manpower, just to check if they are really interested before investing on something. That's concierge. But mostly concierges for services would have some of the automation sequences, and you do it manually. So yeah, that's one way. B2B sequence for services. Um, Instead of customer interviews, you do expert stakeholder interviews. So these are knowledgeable individuals in that industry and with a vast experience in that space. You do interviews with them since they know the intricacies of that industry, especially on the business side of it. Lalo kung ang target yung malalaking companies, you know how you can develop service that fits to the preferences of businesses. And then customer support analysis, if you want to be super detailed about it. You need to access their customer report data. So what are the usual complaints that they get? Maybe search online, or maybe ask someone who is into that industry, and find the gap so that you can improve your service to those businesses. Then you offer brochures, check, and then pre-selling, then on search. Okay. Um, if you're offering, since there are business ideas in this class that offers parang software or platform related business, let's say marketplaces or advocacy platforms, so building software products or software as a service um, business is different from the typical physical product or service business. So meron siyang sariling way to validate. So software, always you start with customer interviews. You create landing pages, and then the difference is doing a clickable prototype. This is called wireframes. So parang ano siya, parang PowerPoint presentation na nakiklik. So that's one way to test whether your platform would work or not. And then you have a mock sale, and then Wizard of Oz test is doing a platform wherein it offers automation. Let's say a platform for, ano ba yung naalala ko? A platform for pets, for example. Maybe analysis of what you need to groom for, or what you need to do for your pet using picture sample lang. So instead of an automated platform with special programs, you do it manually with experts and check whether it would work or not. So as if meron kang software sa likod, pero sa totoo, tao yung gumagawa. Just to know how the business model and the software work manually before investing on big budget for software development. So yun yung last. For B2B, customer interview, instead of online ads, you have discussion forums, especially for business related forums. Boomerang is a unique test for software. It's like kukuha ka ng product ng iba, and then i-rebrand mo as sa'yo, just to check, without you spending so much. But this is may ethics involved dito, because yung iba kasi talagang branded product, totally rebrand nila just to check. These are for mga with open source applications, meaning there's no license nor no attribution needed. Boomerang. Ginagawa rin to actually kapag mga physical products. Let's say si fast food number 1, may bagong offering, pumatok. Si fast food number 2, nakita niya, uy, gumagana tong ano niya, bagong product. It can be called boomerang. Gagawa ka ng clone of that booming product and make it your own. So, sort of, it's a boomerang type of testing for servicing your existing customers using a totally new product, but hindi siya totally developed from scratch. It's inspired by something or someone. Clickable prototype, pre-sale, and then MVP, or minimum viable product. Yeah. Okay, so hopefully na hindi ko kayo na alienate on the so much experiments you can do in checking your business models. Now, we do quick Q&A before we end our discussion. May mabilis ba? Nakakalito? Ano kung nakakalito yung testings? Experiment types based on product, service, or software. But you'll have an idea on how to experiment or test the assumption. Meron ba tayong mga tanong from the group? While you're thinking, let's have a quick recap of what happened to that in tonight's video. First, we discuss business model. Paano ba gumawa ng business? Anong mga factors na ilalagay natin para lahat ng paggalaw nito maka-create ng value na yung offer natin sa customer. Yan, we use the business model canvas. So ito yung may 9 building blocks na fill up natin. And then magfo-focus tayo sa customer and then yung value proposition, which is yung benefit na ino-offer ng products and services. We try to match para magkaroon ng desirability. Pero on the iterative process, hindi lang basta we create and then we execute. We create, we test, we execute, and then we learn. When we learn, we improve continuously until we reach the best business model to use to invest our savings for us to reach our objective. Kung ano yung target natin for the business. Gusto mo maging the richest man in the Philippines, why not? It involves an iterative process of thinking big, starting small, and acting fast. By acting fast and starting small, we need to know what are the experiments we need to do. And that experiments basically address the assumptions na ginawa natin sa business model. Kasi ang assumption, if is not correct, our business model would crumble. When we execute a business model, create a business plan, put our savings, kapag hindi natin na-validate yung mga assumption, eventually our business will fail. So, it's important to test assumptions of our business model. And that's through the various experiments that we discussed quickly. Yan. Okay, we have a question here from the building blocks. Answer na po ba yung 4 P's of marketing? Basically, it's embedded, the 4 P's of marketing. Nadagdagan pa because it is connected with the operation side and the operation side and the finance side. So 4 P's, let's look at the desirability component of the business model canvas. So 4P stands for place, product, price, and then promotions. Relationship, obviously, is promotions. Place is the channel. We have the value proposition is the product and services, but it highlights the benefit from the product and services rather than the actual products and services. It leaves us with the price. Now, price is a function of the value that we offer plus the revenue stream, which the revenue stream we want to impose on that desirability. Transactional lang ba siya? How much? Yan. So, pricing is not explicitly mentioned on that model. Pero, the value proposition, as the name suggests, what is the value to the consumer or target market? And how much do we assign to that value? So basically, yun yung definition ng value-based pricing. May value ka ng product and services mo, how much do you assign to that value para ma-offer mo sa target market mo? Yeah. So that's basically the 4 P's. Pero actually, there are many P's in business. The 4 Ps are the basic ones. Lalo kapag you're into a service business, 4 Ps expands to 8 Ps. Actually, meron pa umaabot ng 12. We have the packaging, the positioning statements, the physical environment, especially kapag service. Physical environment is one way to innovate, like Starbucks. Pagpasok mo, may mo lang yung coffee, it generates a different feel, and it involves crafting a positioning and then yung physical ambience. Marami pang piece involved. At the end of the day, doesn't matter whatever piece na kailangan. What matters is that who are your target market? Do you really know their preferences, their needs and wants? And how would you innovate to address those needs, wants, pains, gains, or whatever word you may call it? That would be the starting point of any business. If you don't know kung sino yung target market mo, ano yung needs na i-address mo, it's very difficult to start a business. Especially kung lalo pag existing businesses. Let's, for some of the students ngayong batch, you have, I think, daming may existing businesses, mga food related. If you don't know the needs and wants of your existing businesses, you wouldn't have the opportunity to build on those existing needs. So you can try out, especially ang way to implement ng mga ganitong innovation is that for existing businesses, may naisip ako, gumagana sa kabila, kayahin natin. But the more sustainable way is that ask your existing customer. May existing customer na kayo. Ask what they need. What do they need? What do they want? Usually, hindi yan sasagot sa inyo. So, you need to have a parang padulas. So, bigyan nyo siya ng some freebie just to answer honestly. Maybe you're into a cafe, for example. As a owner, usually kapag yung owner kinakausap si customer, anong kailangan niya, usually nagre-respond. You'll be surprised. And when you offer something, you ask, it's a good way to collect data and show off that you are really engaging with the customer and also you really care about the business, about your customers' needs. So it's a win-win situation. Nga lang, medyo nakakahiya. Especially sa mga introverts. Nakakahiya. Pero it's one way to collect information, to collect feedback, to collect data, and define the problems of your target market. So kapag na-define nyo nun, mas madali nang gumawa ng solution. Naalala ko lang nung may uso pa yung physical workshops. Yeah. May activity lagi ako kapag mga business or market research topics. So, ang activity, hatiin namin sa kung ilang mga groups yung mga participants. Select ako isa randomly from the group. And then, papag-drawing ko siya ng gusto niyang makita sa isang, kung anong product ang maisip ko. Let's say, wallet. Lahat ng gusto niyang features, anong gusto niyang itsura, papadrawing ko. Padrawing ko sa kanya. Or pasalitain ko lang. Yan. So, at the start, ma-define na namin. So, mangyari is, the contest, 15 to 30 minute designing of wallet na magugustuhan ng volunteer. So, ganun lang kasimple. And actual, merong prize yung mapipili. What always happen in this physical workshop? So, yun yung sasabihin na instruction. And then, si volunteer, mag-ikot, andun lang sa isang tabi, cellphone. The rest of the group would create the best version they think na magugustuhan ni volunteer. So, mga outrageous doon na mga like, dati may wallet kami example eh. Ang mga ginagawa nila mga voice command wallet, mga ganon. Kung ano-anong feature. Kasi walang limit on the budget eh. Assuming you have infinite budget to use. But kapag presentation na, when we check the actual design ng mga participating groups and the initial customer requirement na de-define ni volunteer, usually walang nagmamatch. Pero nagmamatch a little bit of the features because basically same function naman, kunyari wallet. Pero yung mga add-ons, yung mga gusto niya makita, usually hindi nilalagay ng mga groups na designing for that volunteer. So ano yung laging processing ng workshop na yun, no exercise? When you have a 30-minute limit, kung gagawa lang kayo ng product using that 30-minute limit, marami kayong maiisip within that 30-minute span. Pero, hindi kayo sure kung magmamatch yun sa gusto ni customer. So, ano ba yung best way? Literally, kausapin nyo lang si volunteer, tanungin nyo lang. Kahit tanungin mo siya for 25 minutes of the time, you ask them, ano ba yung gusto mo? Ganito ba yung gusto mo? Ganito ba ang nakikita mo dito? Ano pa yung gusto mo? Baka ito gusto mo? Hindi. From that, you'll have a picture of who your customer is and what do they need. From there, let's say 25 minutes, in-interview mo lang siya. In-interview nyo lang. The 5-minute, andaling i-design ng product na yun. Yes, kung ganong exercise lang, kahit drawing or kahit simple outline lang of the product features, magmamatch kayo 100%. And that's usually what happens in the real world. Kahit ako, guilty rin minsan. May excited ako na business gawin ko na lang kahit hindi ako nagva-validate sa market. But in reality, you can't, hindi synonymous kasi yung iniisip natin sa customer. And by doing so, yung question na 4Ps, kung ano requirement ni customer, our marketing piece, our operational plans, financial plan would always address the needs, wants, and the preferences of our customer. So, hopefully nasagot ko yung tanong, ang haba nung sagot ko dun sa 4Ps. Pero basically, when I do marketing, doesn't matter kung anong piece, basta we address what is the need. And that's the essence of a business eh. You address problems of our customer, their needs, kahit hindi problems, kahit needs lang or their preferences, will be rewarded by the revenue and the profit for that that activity. Okay. Do we still have question? I know I'm taking up so much of your time. 9:30 na yata. Yeah. Quick question. Meron pa ba? Yeah. Next, hopefully some na lang reminders for the requirements. So we have a deadline. Kailan ba yung deadline natin? I think this weekend for the business model. Okay, madali lang siya. You just put statements on the business model that would show how the business factors or the building blocks of business work for your business idea. Madali lang siya. Ang mahirap sa atin is the next activity after the second, which is testing. And it's just interviews. and then validating your assumption on your business model. If you will see that the questionnaire or the activity instruction, there are guide questions to ask. And I know physical interview is very difficult. You can do chat uh, chat interview. Ano ba ang tawag doon? Chat interview, video call, voice call, anything not physical or online would suffice. Yeah. No question. So next week, I'll just announce if we have another or a discussion, parang ganito, Thursday. But I'm not sure. I'll just check. But next week we'll have another. And then I would base a topic na lang on some of the things I forgot to mention to supplement your modules. And I'll ask on our course site kung anong topic we want to cover. Hopefully, meron naman lagi digital marketing, the usual approach, branding and all. Yeah, we'll do that. Especially how can you create messages or positioning statements to target specific customers. Yeah. Parang ganito rin siya, but the process is different, but the foundation is still the same. It's about finding the words, patterns from our customers and not from our personal experience and perception. Okay, so with that, thank you very much. Kung wala na question, just put the question on our course site. I also I also commented sa lahat ng submission. The recommendation I have there is a way to improve. It's not saying your business ideas are incorrect. They are all correct, but there are set of assumptions that need to work for the business to fly. So, tama lahat ng business ideas. There's no right or wrong business idea. Na totoo lang, yung execution lang nag-iiba. At malalaman natin kung maging successful or not. So, just recommendations lang ang nilagay ko doon. And it's still up to you whether to use that, especially for the existing businesses. Do we have discussion on Google Analytics? If you want, we can do that. But I would ask the group kung gusto ba ng data analytics. Usually in the e-commerce context, analytics is about conversion optimization. How can we improve from traffic na nare-receive ng isang website or kahit anong online platform? How can we optimize the flow from unaware visitors to paying customers and to a repeat? So, medyo technical, pero yes, we can. But I'll ask the group kung gusto ba. Parang hindi kaya ang isang oras doon. Google Analytics, data analytics. Actually, we're running, kaya minsan wala ako pag Thursday. We're running a workshop for government institution on that field. Yeah. But ano siya, in a context of policy development, yeah, and also communication. It's too technical, but we can lay the foundation, especially on defining. Yun ang important kailangan alam mo yung definition. Kasi kapag nantuto ka lang ng Google Analytics or any analytics platform dyan, malulunod ka sa dami ng indicators. sa dami ng technical terms, sa dami ng metrics to check kung tama ba yung ginagawa mo, hindi. If you know the foundations, you know how the marketing funnel works, marketing funnel from unaware visitors to a paying customer. So, kung alam mo yung foundation behind it, you would know what metric, what indicator to select, and be simple on the optimization. So, yeah, we can, let's ask the group. Yeah, yun yung isa sa tinuturo namin. Yeah. Data analytics. Yeah. Okay. With that, let's continue the discussion on our course site. I'll be asking the group the topics you want to ask, discuss, and hopefully build on your business ideas, especially dun sa mga merong actual business. Hopefully I can help them because they enrolled in this course. They need to I know they want to improve on their existing businesses. So maybe makatulong tayo sa mga may actual business. Okay? So thank you very much. And let's continue discussing on the course side. So thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Bye po.
Thank you. Thank you po. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.